Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. Hello, friends.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hello. As always, I'm joined by my spectacular co-host, Kate Sitars. Hello, Kate.
Hello, hello.
Hello. And we have the pleasure today of being joined by CCA student extraordinaire and fabulous copywriter, Lizzie Gray. Hey, Lizzie, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. Lizzie, we have a lot to talk about on the call today. You, not to spoil it, but if people are listening going, I don't know, should I keep listening? Lizzie has had massive success. So we will definitely dig into that. Lizzie has done the work and has seen the results, is seeing the results. We'll dig into that. But let's go back to the beginning. Tell us about yourself. What has your work history been? How did you get into copywriting? Share all the things with us.
Basically, my background, I was a business analyst for many, many years. But the part I always enjoyed most about it was the report writing, the technical writing within it, sort of getting communication on, getting the guidance notes around it. And so then I thought in the middle of the pandemic, I was sort of like, how can I monetize this? How can we make this work better? And so I found a Facebook ad for the CCA, and the rest is history, really. Since sort of 2020, I've been working on it sort of on and off, half times up until sort of last year. And then last year I went full time and it's gone absolutely crazy. So it's been really, really beneficial.
I'm sure there are business analysts listening who are like, you like the writing part of this?
I love the writing part.
Can you tell us a bit, because so you were still doing that role, right? With your copywriting alongside. So I know there are a lot of folks that's kind of one of the best ways I feel like to transition out of a full-time career into copywriting while you still have work. So do you have tips, advice for folks who are kind of in that position right now?
Build your client base at the same time as being full-time. It is entirely possible. So I worked for a local authority in the UK, which is similar to a council, I suppose, sort of thing like that. Worked there for 15 years and then moved to the University of Cambridge and worked there as well. So I was working full-time, but within sort of 4 or 5 months of going really full-time, I was still working both. I was able to quit working for the University of Cambridge and go full-time copywriting. And it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it.
That's terrific. That's a very quick transition.
Yeah.
So good for you. First, congratulations. But as you look back on it, do you have anything that you would attribute it to? Anything that, any choices you made or any philosophies?
I would say it's probably due to networking. So I did the cold calling. I did it a lot. I was getting work from that. But when I started networking intensively in my local area, it took off like a rocket. It was like the warm referrals, those warm leads that you get from actually being an actively part of your business network in your city or your county or your district or wherever you are. Priceless, really useful.
That's fantastic. How did you go about doing that networking?
I joined various different groups. In the city that I'm in Leicester, we seem to have a absolute massive networking group. So I basically joined them all and worked out which ones work best for me. I prefer more structured networking and I prefer more frequent networking. So I'm part of one that meets every week, and there's 25 to 30 of us in the group and we pass business backwards and forwards. But because you're working with that network in that sort of format, you've got 30 people looking for warm leads for you at the same time, as well as looking for warm leads for everyone else. So that sort of capacity for looking for work is amazing. And it absolutely works for me. So it would definitely work for other people.
Yes. Absolutely. How did you get inspired to do that?
I went on Eventbrite and I looked for local business networks near me. It was very, very, very dull. And I was just like, eh. And then I was like, there's a list of 5. I'm going to go through all of them and then just tried them all.
I love that. Do you consider yourself, just out of curiosity, because I know that there are certainly introverts listening who are like, oh, networking. Do you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert? And either way,
I'm probably quite introverted. I'm autistic and ADHD. So, I mask with the best of them. So it's hard work going to those more informal networking ones where it is more like a social butterfly sort of thing. They are harder for me than the structured ones, like BNI or the Chambers of Commerce or whatever. BNI works best for me because it's like there is a structure, I can follow it. Everyone's expecting everyone to follow other things. There's no small talk. You're just getting on with it. Wonderful. I highly recommend the more structured networking for people who are introverted because they know what to expect.
That's such good advice. Yeah. Because I think people tend to think of networking, that what comes to mind is that more socialization. And I think Yeah,
I get some work from that, but not as much.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I know as comfortable as you feel sharing, you mentioned ADHD and autism, and I know there are other folks in the group who also are experiencing one or both of those. So do you have, what can you share for folks that are in kind of that same position?
With the ADHD aspect of my brain, I find productive procrastination works best. So I have a lot of projects on the go, and as soon as the dopamine drops on one, I hop onto another. So there is never a sort of a downtime in productivity. It's just a bit more bitty. And again, sort of with the autistic side of my brain, I love structure. So I work a certain set of hours. I have a certain set of days. I have a system of doing it, which I got from the CCA. So I always do my creative brief. I always do my discovery call. I always make sure I get my deposit up front. All of those things go through. If those things don't happen, the work doesn't happen. So it's good for me, and it works quite well.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
And now, what have you, we kind of alluded to it, but what kind of results have you seen now that you really leaned into it? We know this going full time in a matter of months is part of it, but what does your client load look like, for example?
At the moment, I have a client load of 15. Which is really positive. And again, I've got, I think, 7 different pieces on the work at the moment. I'm writing books. I am doing websites. I am doing adverts, editorials. Part of the thing is I always get, and I've got from copywriters in my local circle, I've got is the niches. And I do understand that a lot of people want to niche down. For me, not niching down has been the thing that has allowed me to be as productive as I am, because I educate people on what a copywriter is. I suppose in my area, people don't seem to know. So a lot of the time it's like, I can do this, I can do that, I can do the other. It's like, can you do this, that, and the other? And my business analysis background is really helpful as well, because a lot of the time I can do their strategy around their marketing and their comms at the same time as going. I've had people come to me and go, I really need this thing. I was like, but do you really? Have you got these things in place first? And they're like, no, we haven't. So like, pipeline of work going down. So it's actually really useful that way.
I love it.
And we are recording this in April. And I do believe that you're booked out for quite a bit. How long are you booked out for right now?
Until June.
Until June, yes.
Yeah.
Incredible.
A couple of things in September and October, but they're sort of further in future. But yeah, booked out until early June.
That's
love
great.
it.
Good for you.
Yeah.
It's great fun.
I'm wondering about, as you've been building your business and clearly seeing fantastic results, what have been, I guess what I'm looking for is maybe some success tips. If people are listening, maybe they're just getting started and they're looking to build up their client base. Maybe they're considering dipping their toes into networking, pitching, all of that kind of thing. What tips or what kind of maxims helped you to be as successful as you are?
I would say probably maintaining those soft skills, being friendly with people. I know that sounds really cliche, but I think the reason why I've got a lot of work is because I don't put forward that impression of really salesy, which is quite hard sometimes for people when what we do is selling material. But I think being free with the information that you have, appearing that expert that you are, is really helpful, because people go, they clearly know what they're doing. Oh, you do it then, sort of thing like that. I've had so many pieces of work through. I'll go, do you want to see my portfolio? They're like, no. You sound like you know what you're doing. And I'm like, maybe. Fake it till you make it. But there's been plenty of work, and absolutely network. Most networks, people are there to help you and want to help themselves. They can't help themselves if they're not in a group of successful people. So they want to help you be successful because that helps them be successful. So absolutely network your heart out. It's really helpful, because then it also helps you with your cold pitching as well, because you start to talk to people and they say, oh, you should talk to these guys as well. So you don't need to do one or the other. Combination of both is always best.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really great point about networking. I think, especially for those of us who think to ourselves, I don't like networking. I think it's often because we're thinking in terms of our own experience. We feel uncomfortable because we think we're going to go into a room and we're going to try to get people to give us business, but that's not really what it's about. It's about sharing and about in the sense of business, it's about bartering in terms of, hey, here's what I have to offer. If you have something to offer in return, fantastic. But it's really more than getting. You do best at networking when you focus on giving.
Absolutely. And I think that's a key tenet in quite a lot of networking groups I'm in. And again, you get access to that wide net. If there's only 6 degrees of separation between everything, if you have a dream client that you want to work with, You only need to speak to 6 to 7 people in that room. You might find someone who knows them. Go and talk to people. You'll find them more easily than reaching out and getting constant buff backs from their customer service department going, they don't want to talk to you. I'm like, but I spoke to so-and-so and I spoke to so-and-so, and they do actually know them because they're their neighbor. Hey, let's do that.
I really like that idea of if there's a client that you want to work with, to put that out there, because it might be that someone in that room knows them, but it might be that someone that they know knows them, or someone that they know that knows. It could be, like you said, it could be a couple of degrees out. But if that's in someone's head, you never know what could you put it out into the universe, right? You never know.
And if you're proactive and you sort of like put yourself out there more often, which is doing multiple sessions of networking, people remember you. I've now become ubiquitous in my city. Everyone knows it. Oh, it's you. Like, I've literally only been doing it sort of 8 months, and so it's, oh yeah, it's you. And you get invited to things, and you get invited to things that I've been to more events that I never would have thought, never have been invited to in my life before, just from starting this. And everyone's like, oh, you're the copywriter. I'm like, yeah, I am. I am the copywriter. What a strange thing to think of. But
that's me. I'm the one.
I love it. The copyright. I love it.
Yeah.
So cool.
What kind of events have you been in? Just out of curiosity.
Now we're like,
share. Yeah.
No, there was one recently, which is a big charity in my city. It's called Rainbows. It deals with disabled children, but I got invited to the celebrity gala, met a lot of celebrities within the UK. Obviously, maybe the US audience wouldn't know them, but they were celebrities to me. I'm just, oh my gosh, sort of thing. Been to different sort of private networking groups, been invited to award ceremony, all sorts of things. Again, networking has lots of benefits.
Absolutely.
We're going to see Lizzie on Graham Norton next thing we know.
I'd love to. Me and Graham.
That's my dream. Oh my goodness.
Now, when it comes to your networking, you attend the in-person events, and sometimes those involve celebrities. Do you do any following up? Do you, email people after the fact, or what's your process?
I always follow up. I always follow up with a request for a one-to-one, not a request for business, not a request for work, always a request for one-to-one to understand their business better. And that seems to work best, because then if I understand their business better, purely from an analytical thing, it's like, right, okay, now I know who I can refer you to. And you might also have work for me. That's a bonus. But if I can refer you to other people, then I'm proving my worth in 2 fashions. I can write for you, and I'm a useful business contact for you. So therefore, you're more likely to come back to me for some work.
So good.
So good. And so there's so much more likely to get on the call when you make it about, hey, can we get on the call so I can understand what you do better so that I can refer you more often? Oh, that's so good. Was that a technique that you had used or learned previously, or did that?
It was kind of a combination of that BNI, give is gain sort of aspect of it, but it's also just, it feels less salesy. And I don't want to do a piece of work for someone if I don't understand what they are or what they do. How can you write appropriately about it? You can research it till the cows come home. If you really don't know, you're not going to be able to sell it to them. They're like, do you know X, Y, Z about this thing? You're like, yeah, kind of. It's like, maybe. So it's better to know what they're doing, because then if they eventually and hopefully do ask you to do work, you're like, I already know because you told me this already. It's great. It's come straight from you.
Oh, I love that. That's fantastic. And just maybe this is just a silly little logistical question, but do you end up usually talking to them more on Zoom or on a phone call, or do you meet for coffee? Or
I do all 3. I don't drive, so I end up having to budget days to go into a village, city, wherever they're all hanging out, and have multiple one-to-ones on those days. But I also do phone calls. I also do Zoom meetings like this. Anything that works and anything that suits them. Oftentimes it'll be on the back of another networking event, and then there'll be a one-to-one after that, sort of thing, whatever works best.
Yeah, that's so smart.
So just thinking about all the various ways you connect with people, are the bulk of your clients local? Do you have people further afield? What's kind of that mix, and how does that play into?
I have international clients. I have some in the States. I have some in Canada. I have one in Hong Kong, and I'm looking to get some more in Europe. I'm also doing training in another field as well. So I'm hoping to get some more European clients along that line and sort of combine the copywriting, and it's neurolinguistic programming. So it's called coaching aspect as well. So that would be a really cool string to add to my bow when I finish doing that piece of work. But yeah, so I've got, and then loads in my local area, and then loads around the country. So it's really
incredible.
Good
fun. Yeah. That's Hong Kong though, that time zone. Woo!
Maybe a little trickier for the States, but still not so great for
the UK.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I don't mind.
That's fantastic.
I was gonna say, if Lizzie can connect from England to the Hong Kong, I feel like anything is possible for all of us. That
I
is,
think you just chat as much as possible. Like I said, I met it at a random networking group, and the Hong Kong client wanted me to translate copy that their staff in Hong Kong had translated from Mandarin, from Cantonese to English, but then wanted that colloquial spin on it for the various different things. And they have copywriters in France, they have copywriters in Italy for whatever they, to get it colloquial and suitable for the local market. So there's lots of opportunities there.
And really, I think for everybody listening, that's just one example. And that's one company that has that need. Think of all of the companies that have these needs. And there's so much opportunity. And it's not just limited to where you live. It's not just limited to, if you're in the States, it's not just limited to your state or your region. Or if you're anywhere, it's not just limited to your country. You could be writing for clients all over the world. I think that's so exciting.
Is there anything that surprised you along this journey in terms of whether it's projects you've taken on, clients you've met, or just anything, the process of it all?
The thing I've been asked to do most often is ghostwrite. So ghostwrite books for people. And that was surprising because it's not strictly copy, but it ends up being that way. So more often than not, you'd be surprised how many people have a book in them, but may not have the means to get it out. Offer that. A lot of people want it, particularly people with ADHD, people with dyslexia, people who have credible creative ideas, but not the means to get it out on paper. Copywriters and content writers, we're a godsend because we really help. So it's a means.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic.
And so I guess to kind of wrap it all up and summarize, if that's even possible, if someone's listening who's been toying with the idea of getting into copywriting, they're not sure, what advice would you give them?
I would say absolutely do it. Absolutely speak to all your friends, all your work colleagues, tell everyone that this is what you're doing, because it gives you a set of warm leads to immediately go to. Get a profile on LinkedIn, make it clever, make it fun. Don't be exactly the same as everyone else. Don't expect it to go viral or anything overnight. Mine definitely hasn't, but it's sort of just building traction, and go and network. If you're introverted, there are networks out there for you. There are online networks. Go and talk to people, because the more you talk to people, they might help you with a thing. You'll find your accountant that way. You'll find your web designer that way. You'll find the designers you want to work with if you want to get those sort of spec pieces to easy way to find them. So you see so many people in the Facebook group going, I need to find a designer. I've had 10 people come back. Just go and talk to the one in your city. It's a lot easier sometimes to find people, or you find one or two, and then you can go, I want to work with that one because I've got a synergy with that person. It's a really good one.
I love it. That's great advice. Great advice. And now if someone is listening and they think, oh, wow, Lizzie's amazing, I want to hire her. Where can people find you?
They can find me on my website, which is www.grahamwhitecopywriting.co.uk. It is undergoing a revamp. So at the moment, it will look better in about 3 months' time. So we'll get there.
We'll give you a deadline. So when this might line up perfectly.
Or message me directly on LinkedIn. Perfectly happy to chat to anyone on there.
Yeah.
So
I love it. And we'll have the links to all of that in the show notes so people can get right to you. Yes. But Lizzie, this was so fantastic. And I really appreciated your emphasis on giving first and foremost, and then how that has brought in so much opportunity. I think a lot of the viewers and listeners are going to really be heartened by that. So we really appreciate this.
I genuinely, a year and a half ago, I was at the beginning of it, and it was sort of like, I want to be at this stage. How am I going to get to this? And then suddenly it happened. So it does happen. Keep plugging away. I was looking at the Facebook post going, I wish that was me. And then it was. And I'm like, done it.
Yes.
So it's
yes,
possible.
you did. Yes. Yeah. You really did. Congratulations, and good for you for doing the work.
Cheers.
Well, this was so helpful. I don't know about you guys, but I especially enjoyed this one. And so we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Bye, everybody. Like what you heard? Hit subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're ready to take the first step toward becoming a copywriter yourself, sign up for a free video training right here.